Why the deep state wants war with Russia. In this video, we're going to take a look at the latest in the increasing escalation between the U.S. and Russia over Ukraine. We're going to see how the latest accusations against Russia are actually being called out as absurd. And stick me to the very end of this video when I'll reveal the real reason why the warmongers in D.C. are so infatuated with fighting Russia. You are not going to want to miss this. Greetings, everyone. Dr. Steve here with you. Great to be with you. As always, I am your daily fake news antidote. As each and every day, I provide patriotic analysis to help you to think better so you can feel better in these crazy and turbulent times. So if you've already done so, you know what to do. Make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. Before we begin, I want to meet you in person, and there is no better time to do that than the next stop on our American Freedom Tour in Houston, Texas. I'm so excited to get out to the Lone Star State and see all the Turley talkers out there on January 29th. I'll be speaking with Don Trump Jr. and Kayleigh McEnany and Dinesh D'Souza and other amazing patriots. And to make it even better, after the event, I'm going to be holding an exclusive Turley Talks live Q&A. So if you're one of the first 150 people to sign up for the Houston event, you're going to be invited to hang out with me and my team on that Saturday night. You can ask your questions at the live Q&A. You can get photos together, and we can discuss the future of this nation with fellow like-minded patriots. So hurry up, get those tickets right now because those spots are limited. They're going quick. Click on that link below and register to join me, Donald Trump Jr., and other awesome patriots in Houston on January 29th. Cannot wait to see you out there. All right, gang, let's dive right in here. Over the weekend, the D.C. oligarchs seemed to put the pedal to the metal in their showdown with Russia. The latest involves the accusations that Russia actively is attempting a regime change in the Ukrainian government. UK intelligence reports are claiming, and by the way, without any evidence offered at all, but these intelligence reports are claiming that Vladimir Putin's government wants to install a man by the name of Yevhen Morayev as a puppet president, a pro-Kremlin, pro-Russian president over Ukraine. That's right. Russia's now not just trying to invade Ukraine, now they're trying to actively topple their government within. And who can stand for this? I mean, how dare a foreign government try to topple another sovereign government for their own geopolitical interests? What an outrage. Who would even think of such a thing as that? It's also absurd. Apparently, neither the Biden administration nor UK intelligence knows very much about this fellow Morayev, who's supposedly the Kremlin's #1 pick for leader of Ukraine. As it turns out, Morayev doesn't have a pro-Russian bone in his body. In fact, he's so anti-Russian, he's actually banned from traveling to Russia. Even if Russia were plotting regime change within the Ukrainian government, again, we have no evidence for it, Morayev would probably be the last candidate for such a coup. But the British Guardian, they're growing skeptical over the plot holes in the supposed plot. And so it's no wonder Russia is laughing at us today, calling the UK intelligence accusations, quote, nonsense and nothing more than NATO-initiated disinformation. But don't tell that to the warmongers in the bumbling Biden regime. They're ordering family members of diplomats now to leave Ukraine in the coming days, claiming that Russia's invasion of the nation is imminent. Now, of course, this is what the bumbling Biden administration has been saying now for over 2 months. Russia's going to invade. Russia's going to invade. It's happening. Russia's going to invade. And yet, nothing. But you better get your families out of there because Russia's going to invade. and just to show you how tough the shell of the man in the Oval Office is, Biden's even considering sending 3,000 to 5,000 American troops to Eastern European nations like Latvia to scare and intimidate Putin. For its part, the EU, the European Union, seems to be calling Biden's ridiculous bluff in all this. They've decided against the notion of pulling their diplomats from Ukraine the way the hysterical State Department here in the States has ordered. The EU, in stark contrast to the Biden administration, is actually acting with far more maturity and moderation toward Russia, stating that there was no need to, quote, dramatize the situation while diplomatic talks with Russia continue. And by the way, those talks have basically turned their backs on the bumbling Biden regime. France and Germany have decided to hold talks with Russian officials on their own, without Biden administration officials present. It's a clear sign that Europe is increasingly seeing the bumbling Biden regime as basically falling apart on the world stage, having lost any semblance of credibility. Europe, in fact, has been turning to Russia ever since the incompetence of the Biden regime lost Afghanistan. Britain turned to Russia originally for what they called Russia's, quote, moderating influence over the Taliban. Italy and France have turned to Russia in the hopes of consolidating international efforts at fostering some kind of stability in Afghanistan. And Reuters reported months ago that Putin and French President Macron spoke as well, interestingly, not just about Afghanistan, but also about Ukraine. But no details were given. So with the shift over the last several months away from Washington towards Moscow for geopolitical stability, we've already been seeing how the bumbling Biden regime has begun to lose any significant credibility on the world stage. And we're seeing now with the EU rebuffing Biden's call to remove their diplomats from Ukraine, we're seeing that playing itself out here. Now, the whole regime change story is turning out to be another Russian hoax that the deep state appears to be infatuated with, which of course raises the question, why is the deep state and the DC war machine doing this? Why are they so infatuated with going to war with Russia? Now, Tucker Carlson's arguing that when all said and done, it's all about the money, right? For defense contractors, war means profits, massive profits. The military-industrial complex, of course, has always profited off of war, no matter how limited the skirmish might be. But I actually think this goes deeper than just money. It's certainly money is tied into all this, no question. But the Washington establishment deep state hates Russia for an even deeper reason. I believe the geopolitical war that the deep state wants is in response to the geopolitical culture war that's going on throughout the world as we speak. In other words, I believe the Cold War is being replaced by an international culture war. And the scary thing for the deep state is that Russia is winning the culture war. Now, you may not have seen this tweet, but this tweet is from the U.S. Embassy in Kabul, Afghanistan. It was from back in June of last year, just a couple of months before Kabul fell to the Taliban. And back in 2012, NBC News celebrated the flying of the rainbow flag on an American military base in Afghanistan. As it turned out, our Western elites were not so much interested in turning Afghanistan into a democracy as they were turning it into a land of wokeism, a place where Western globalist values would be inculcated amongst the population there. It was a leftist liberal project that, of course, was doomed from the start. And guess who among all the world leaders said that? Guess which major world leader said that the attempt at spreading woke values by our Western elites was going to result in a massive traditionalist backlash like the return of the Taliban? Well, you guessed it, Vladimir Putin. After Kabul fell, Putin stood up and said, hey, Biden, this is what you get when you try to impose your Western liberal, secular values on Afghanistan. You get the Taliban in response. And Putin knows this because Putin has been leading a post-globalist world order that sees the old woke leftism of the West as falling apart and dying on the global stage. In contrast to the tone-deaf demands of our Western political elite, scholars are increasingly seeing our world as one that's becoming more and more religious, not less. Our world is becoming more traditionalist and less progressive. As hard as that might be for us to see here in the States or in the West in general, all throughout the world, we are seeing nothing less than a conservative religionist renewal, the likes of which the world has never seen before. Scholars are increasingly recognizing that our world is fast becoming what they call a post-secular world, where the liberal values that were once considered universal by our globalist elite are increasingly being rejected around the world. These post-secular dynamics are contributing to nothing less than the ascent of a new geopolitical world order, a post-globalist world order that's rapidly replacing the secular order that dominated the world over the last several decades. And now, the reestablishment of yet another Islamic theocracy in the Middle East has only served to underscore just how in retreat the secular liberal globalist project really is. As Vladimir Putin stands taller on the world stage than perhaps ever before, the fall of Kabul is representing nothing less than the fall of the Western globalist political order. A theocratic Iran, along with a renewed Orthodox Russia, an increasingly fundamentalist Pakistan, a Hindu nationalist India, a China that is going through its own Neo-Confucian revival. They're all now more emboldened than ever to remake the global political order in their more traditionalist image. And that, my friends, is exactly what the warmongers in the deep state in D.C. are so up in arms against. They're losing their globalist empire. And that's why the deep state is so infatuated with going to war with Russia. Unfortunately for them, there's nothing they can do. Oh, they can cause a lot of carnage along the way, for sure. But in the end, the days of globalism are coming to an end. And there's nothing that the warmongers in D.C. can do to stop their own inevitable demise. Now, before you go, you will definitely want to check out my latest video. I just uploaded on Kamala Harris absolutely crumbling in a disastrous interview. It's so cringeworthy. It's wonderful. You're going to love it. So make sure to click on the link, and I'll see you over there. God bless.